He ran on the promise of change, but 5 years and a massive security leak later, even left-leaning media outlets are comparing President Obama to his predecessor when it comes to data mining. Check out this recent mashup photo from Huffington Post. George W. Obama. So, meet the old boss, same as the new boss, or meet the new boss, same as the old boss. That's like me quoting President Bush doing The Who the other day. Let's bring in our political panel. CNN political contributor and former press secretary to the Bush administration, Ari Fleischer, staff writer for The Atlantic, Molly Ball, and former deputy press secretary to the Obama administration, Bill Burton. Bill, Ari has already dubbed this Bush's fourth term because of all the surveillance going on. Does President, and he means it as a compliment, does President Obama's stance really vary that much from the programs he criticized?
Yes, a lot. And number one is that there are safeguards from all three branches of government over every level of this program. You've got courts and judges involved in any information that's collected. You've got, obviously, throughout the administration, folks involved in making sure that privacy is protected while we're protecting the security of Americans. And, of course, Congress is involved. They reauthorized the program. Members of the Intelligence Committee are briefed regularly. All members of Congress have access to this information. So, yes, it's much different from warrantless wiretapping in programs like that.
Mr. Fleischer.
Yeah, you know, President Bush has been so gracious to President Obama. The president really ought to act the same way toward President Bush. The fact of the matter is President Obama is keeping us safe and doing it the right way. And he's doing it in large part because the house that he inherited from George Bush, the foundation upon which our national security and our homeland security has been built, with the changes of a couple curtains that he did change, put in a few more audits, is the Bush infrastructure. It certainly is. And the president deserves credit for it. And that's why I've been a Republican who's praising President Obama for taking the anti-terror steps he's taken, because this is what the nation requires. It is what George Bush put in place.
Wait just one second, because there is a big difference here. And it's not about graciousness, because, yes, George W. Bush, as president, did everything he could to keep our country safe. I give you that. There's disagreements on how he did it. But the biggest difference here is that there are judges involved in what happens. There is not warrantless wiretapping.
That was always a misnomer. The Bush administration did not defend it properly. That was an issue where you still had to go to a FISA court to get the warrants to listen to one party being outside the country. The FISA court had to go first. There was never warrantless.
I want to bring in Molly to Truth Squad this a little bit. Do they both have a point to make? What do you think of what's going on?
Yeah, I think they do both have a point to make. And so what you see with this issue is that it scrambles that partisan equation. You have, I think, a lot of Republicans reflexively reacting with anger because it's something that Obama has done, and then a lot of Democrats rushing to defend him. But at the same time, you have liberals on civil liberties who are deeply disturbed by this. There was a Pew poll the other day that 1/3 of Democrats don't like this. And when you have 1/3 of the president's party upset with something he's done, he's clearly not doing something that falls along neat partisan lines. There's
been a lot of criticism of President Obama from civil libertarians on the left and right. I do want to say one thing. You talk about Congress being briefed, and President Obama overstated the case, saying that every member of Congress had been briefed. It is true that members of the committees, the key intelligence committees, had been briefed, and there may have been opportunities, especially in the Senate, for everyone to be briefed if they wanted to be briefed. Can we agree that members of Congress are not doing everything they need to be doing to stay on top of this? Can we have bipartisan agreement on that the oversight responsibility needs to be taken a little bit more seriously?
You know, Jake, my experience on these intelligence programs is extraordinarily difficult for members of Congress to stay on top of it. These things are often hard, fast-moving, hard to understand, and you've really got to be in the administration, and plus in the part of the administration that's operational to understand all that's going on. Intelligence committee members are supposed to have that kind of knowledge. They're too deep, and that's the problem. They're inch deep and too wide is really the way I look at it.
Well, I'm sympathetic in the sense that not a lot of members of a congressional staff have the kind of clearance that you need in order to get this sort of information. And so if you're flying without any staff at all and there's all the other things that you're doing, yes, it can be hard to get a hold of all the information that you can get a hold of. But at the same time, for some of the folks who have come out and criticized these programs, who do indeed have access to the information that they say that they didn't have access to, I think, then you sort of run into problems, because you are ultimately responsible for programs that you as a Congress have reauthorized and you have access to information to.
Molly, we only have a minute left. I want to get your take on Michael Bloomberg telling big donors in New York who have given to Democrats in the past, don't give to these 4 Senate Democrats because they helped block the gun control bill I wanted. Is this smart politics, or do you think this could backfire?
He's playing a long game. He wants to create a situation where, just like Politicians on the right are afraid of the NRA. Politicians on the left are afraid of Mike Bloomberg and his money in favor of gun control. But I think a lot of Democrats are absolutely right to be concerned that in the short run, this is going to cost them very dearly.
But is this going to embolden Democrats to primary these 4 Senate Democrats, or I guess only 3 of them because one's not running for re-election? But is it going to create more primary fights, or do you think this could help the Republican, who probably will be worse on guns, according to Michael Bloomberg's view of the world?
In these specific cases, it's going to help the Republican. All indications are it's going to weaken, it's going to soften up these Democrats who don't have very viable primary opponents, very big names in those states, and it's going to make it easier for them to be defeated.
All right, Molly Ball, Ari Fleischer, Bill Burton, thanks so much for joining us.